You felt it once, didn't you? That look that pierced deeper than words, where her smile said come closer, but her eyes whispered, you will not survive me. You dismissed it as contradiction, but it was a trial, a blade wrapped in silk. You touched it and bled, and still you thanked her. There's a strange rhythm in your memory, not a moment, but a pattern. She says she's fine, and you nod like a fool, but her stillness roars louder than rage, and her softness carries the scent of judgment. You think she wants comfort, but what she wants is clarity. She doesn't punish you with her distance, she weighs your soul by how you react to it. You thought it was about emotions. It was never about emotions. It was about exposure. Who you become when she pulls away, that is the man she sees. You still don't understand, but you felt it, that echo inside her silence. The test was never spoken, but you failed it anyway. She doesn't lie to deceive, she lies to reveal who you truly are when the mask drops. You are not seduced by her words, you are seduced by the silence between them. When she says, I'm fine, you flinch. Not because the phrase confuses you, but because you know it is a veil. A delicate veil stretched thin over a blade. You nod, you accept it, you pretend it's truth because you want her to be easy, manageable, tame. But Nietzsche whispers what you want is not a woman, it is anesthesia. And she, in her cruelty, denies you comfort to expose your cowardice. You have mistaken her restraint for confusion, her coldness for indecision. But no, she is the eternal recurrence in disguise. She does not forget, she does not forgive. Every time you retreat from the abyss of her truth, she adds another stone to the monument of your weakness. She remembers not what you did, but who you became when faced with what she withheld. That is your true confession, not what you say to her, but what you become beside her silence. You ask for honesty, but you are not built to receive it. You could not bear her naked mind, the unfiltered savagery of her knowing. She must translate herself into weakness so you can play the hero. So she smiles, and in that smile, she feeds you the illusion that you are still strong. But it is not kindness. It is a mercy killing. She is watching what dies in you when she plays the lamb. You believed you were the wolf, the pursuer, the chooser, but her games are older than your gods. Her refusal to rage, her cryptic calm, her passivity, it is not a surrender. It is bait. The divine feminine is not docile, it is surgical. It will strip you to your last layer and leave you begging for a second chance to prove that your strength was not just bravado. And when you kneel, she will not speak, because by then, the trial is already over. What you call manipulation is ritual. What you call contradiction is depth. She is not chaotic, you are simply blind to the rules of her theater. In her world, love is not confession, it is confrontation. The way you respond to her silence is not read as emotion, it is judged as character. You look for comfort in her face, and when it is not there, you collapse. That is the secret. The test was never to make her feel better. The test was to remain a man, even in the absence of approval. Every time she says, I'm fine, she's telling you exactly what you fear. You're not ready for the real me. But you're so addicted to surface, to peace, to pleasing, that you miss the moment to burn. She gives you the fire, but you hide your hands. You ask her to trust you while you tremble at her storms. You praise her softness, but recoil at her silence. You want her heart, but not the darkness that shapes it. The feminine does not reveal itself to those who seek reward. It reveals itself to those who endure rejection without breaking. She will dress her wounds with laughter. She will speak kindly with a sword in her chest. Not because she is deceptive, but because she needs to see will. You see me even when I hide. That is the challenge. And it is one few men pass. You call her cruel because she does not explain. You call her cold because she does not comfort. But the truth is harsher. She gave you the moment to rise, and you flinched. You asked her what was wrong, not because you cared, but because you couldn't bear the dissonance in the air. You needed the storm to pass. You didn't want her truth, you wanted her calm, and so she learned he is not the one. There is no punishment like the gaze of a woman who has tested your soul and found it lacking. No scream as silent as a smile when she's already walked away inside. You may still be in the room, still speaking, still reaching, but to her, the ritual is complete. Your trial is over, and in your desperate grasping for connection, you expose the last illusion. You never loved her, you loved her approval. She plays the fool only to mirror your folly. She says she's fine, not because she is, but because the one who understands does not need words. She is not waiting for you to decode her. She is waiting to see if you can remain yourself in the presence of her mystery. Most men cannot. They crumble, apologize, over-explain, accuse. They fill the silence she offers with their noise. And so she leaves, untouched, unclaimed. You think you are losing her, but you never had her. You only had access to her performance. And when you failed to prove worthy of the truth beneath it, she withdrew the stage lights and let you stand alone, not in the darkness of her, but in the hollowness of you. You were never meant to fix her. You were meant to face her, and in doing so, face the part of you that has always begged to be tested, judged, pierced. The feminine is not chaos. It is precision masquerading as unpredictability. Every withheld emotion, every soft dismissal, every delayed answer, it is not indecision. It is alchemy. She does not break you to hurt you. She breaks you to show you that you were already fractured. This is why Nietzsche warned you, not because she is evil, but because you are unprepared. You, who has spent your life chasing love like a dog chases meat, panting, performing, pleading. You call it romance. She calls it surrender, not of ego, but of spine. And she cannot respect what kneels too easily. She doesn't want your gifts. She wants your gaze steady, unflinching, unafraid of her seasons. She doesn't want your questions. She wants your silence, not empty, but aware, not passive, but conscious, not fragile, but present. She wants to be seen without being explained, touched without being soothed, known without being dissolved into meaning. And that terrifies you, because it reveals everything you are not. And still, you return. Each time she says, "I'm fine," something ancient stirs in you. A memory of your forgotten self, the one before you were trained to be agreeable, nice, polite. The one that could hunt, watch, wait. The one that could recognize the divine not in beauty, but in challenge. You feel it rise and you silence it. Again, you are not broken because she withholds. You are broken because you expect her not to. And so you miss the truth behind the smile before the slaughter, the final mercy before the soul is judged. She gave you the stage. She lit the flame. She stood in stillness, and you mistook the silence for emptiness. But now you know. You think you're seeing her, but it's your hunger, your fear, your unfinished self that stares back. You called her mysterious, but what you really meant was this. She refused to reflect back the image you needed to survive. You demanded affirmation, praise, warmth, and when she remained still, you accused her of being distant. When she remained silent, you said she was cold, but you never asked what truth her silence was forcing you to see. She is not withholding. She is exposing, not herself, but you. She becomes the mirror that reflects the man beneath the mask. And that is what you cannot endure. She didn't hide her soul. You hid yours, and now blame her for not reaching through the veil to find it. The mirror she holds is not glass, it is shadow. It is not her fault you look into her eyes and only see your loneliness staring back. She didn't place that emptiness in you, she only ceased pretending it wasn't there. You want her to be soft, so you don't have to be strong. You want her to be expressive, so you don't have to listen deeper, but she offers you no escape, and you call that cruelty. You said she confused you, but what truly unsettled you was this: she didn't collapse into your expectations. She didn't rush to reassure you, validate you, nurture your ego back into place. You were left alone with yourself, and in that silence, your entire image began to rot, because it was never solid to begin with. She simply stopped pretending, and in doing so, she forced you to confront the echoing chamber of your own incompletion. You never loved her. You loved how you felt beside her before she stopped performing. You loved how she mirrored your fantasies until she didn't. And when she removed the script, you realized you'd never known her. You'd only known your projection. That's what terrifies you, not her depth, not her silence, but the realization that everything you believed about intimacy was theater. You were never in love. You were in delusion. And she knows. Oh, she knows. Because every woman who sees remembers. They remember how quickly a man will say you've changed when she simply stops hiding. They remember how fast your voice shifts when she doesn't laugh at your joke, how your hands tighten when her eyes don't glow on cue. And still, you believe you're the victim of mystery, but she was never mysterious. You were just unprepared to see her as she was uncurated, unyielding, unsaved. You ask why she plays games. But the truth is this: you are the one who cannot survive without them. Without the rules of pursuit and praise, you have no identity. You fall apart when she stops clapping. You disappear when she stops performing. And so you demand the show continue. You call it love, but it's hunger. You call it communication, but it's control. She has not abandoned you. She has simply ceased dancing around your wounds. You want her to explain, but she doesn't owe you clarity. She is not a guide. She is the gate, and only those who stand tall in confusion deserve entry. When she withholds words, it is not because she has nothing to say. It is because she refuses to make your comfort more important than your awakening. Her mystery is not a game. It is a boundary. You were never meant to pass without blood. Still, you knock. Still, you beg. Still, you perform small acts of affection, hoping they will reawaken the mirror you once adored. But she sees it now, the hollowness, the dependency, the theater. She sees that what you loved in her was not her soul, but her ability to hide yours. And now that she is still unmasking, waiting, you panic. You need her to smile. You need her to forgive. But she just watches. And in that gaze, you finally glimpse the one thing you've always fled: yourself. This is the mirror she hides behind. The one that doesn't show your strengths. The one that reflects your avoidance, your fear, your longing to be held without being revealed. She offers it, not as punishment, but as proof. This is what love demands: the courage to see what is not flattering. She never wanted your perfection. She wanted your endurance, and you gave her performance. Now she is quiet. Now she is still, and you think she is gone, but she's not. She is present in a way you've never known. She's no longer echoing your hopes. She's observing your ruin, not because she is cruel, but because she knows the only man worth standing beside is the one who doesn't need a mirror to believe he exists. You speak louder now. You touch her more often. You try to win her back with gentle gestures and heartfelt texts. But every word you send reveals another fracture, because she knows if you truly saw her, you would not need her response to feel real, but you do. And in that need, you show her that you do not love, you extract, you do not relate, you consume. And so she recedes, not out of anger, but out of clarity. She is not punishing you, she is revealing you. She does not explain because the lesson is not in words. It is in absence, in stillness. In the eerie mirror she holds up as she walks away, showing you not what you lost, but what you never were. And yet, some part of you wants to see, some deep animal fragment inside you remembers the weight of truth. It remembers the woman who did not chase, the gaze that did not flinch, the silence that did not bend. That part of you stirs in the night. It claws at your sleep. It whispers, you failed her test. But maybe you could return not to win her back, but to face the self you betrayed to keep her. And this is the paradox. You want her more now that she sees you less. You ache to be seen, but only if the seeing flatters. You long for her eyes, but not if they judge. You crave her softness, but not if it dissolves you. You want her mirror, not her mind. You want her reflection, not her rebellion. And that is why you are lost. You believed love was union, but she reveals love as revelation, and revelation does not comfort. It confronts. You asked her to share her heart, but what you really meant was show me something that won't threaten mine. And now you stand before the altar of the real, empty-handed, exposed, undone. She is not hiding behind a mirror. She is the mirror. And until you can look without distortion, without projection, without need, you will never see her. You will only see yourself, flickering, unfinished, afraid. And that is the punishment, to be surrounded by what you could have touched. If only you had dared to stop performing and start burning. Her silence is not emptiness, it is power, sharpened by centuries of waiting for a man who can see through fire. You think her silence is a vacuum that it craves to be filled, but you are mistaken. Her silence is not a lack, it is a weapon. It is shaped, sharpened, deliberate. You believe it's passive, but that's only because you don't understand the ritual. She does not withhold to manipulate. She withholds to summon the one who can stand in front of the unspoken without crumbling. And you crumble every time. Her withholding is a furnace not for punishment, but for purification. When she turns away, when her warmth recedes, when her voice softens into nothing, you panic not because she has gone, but because you have. You realize how little of you remains without her gaze. You beg, you chase, you kneel, but none of this touches her. Not because she is cruel, but because she sees finally, fully, that you are more dependent than devoted. This is the difference you never understood. Devotion stands in silence. Dependence drowns in it. She does not test you with questions. She tests you with absence. She creates the void and watches what you place inside it. Will you fill it with accusation, complaint, self-pity, or will you endure it without needing to conquer it? You thought love was an exchange, but she belongs to a more ancient logic. Love, for her, is not a bargain. It is a crucible. She does not fall into it, she forges it. And only those who survive the fire deserve the ash. You've been trained to react to need. She's been trained to conceal it. Your desire is loud, visible, impatient. Hers is subterranean. You bear your hunger like a badge, hoping she'll feed it. But she is not a mother. She is the myth, the gatekeeper, the moon in eclipse. She is not here to soothe your need. She is here to see what it reveals. You once thought her silence was a trap. Now you know it is the final invitation. Not to please her, but to prove yourself. You called her distant, but she was watching who you become when her approval fades, when her affection recedes, when her softness turns to stone. That's when she sees you, the real you. not the one you crafted for her warmth. You speak of love as though it were safe, but her love was never safe. It was sacred, and the sacred never arrives in comfort. The sacred arrives in fire, silence, judgment. Her withholding is not a wall. It is a mirror made of obsidian, cold, dark, inescapable. She says nothing and you scream. She turns away and you beg. She sits still and your entire identity begins to dissolve. That's the ritual. To break the man who cannot endure being unseen. She has seen too many perform, too many flatter, too many mold themselves into the shape of her approval. So now she waits for the man who can see her without needing her to see him. For the man who remains intact when the spotlight disappears. You thought you were choosing her, but she was the one who chose not by speaking, but by watching. Not with words, but with silence. And you failed, not because you were cruel, but because you were empty, because you needed her to perform in order to feel real. She doesn't want your praise. She doesn't want your flowers, your explanations, your carefully curated apologies. She wants to see if you can stay, not physically, spiritually. Stay when she closes the gates. Stay when she folds into herself. Stay when she stops being your mirror and becomes her own myth. And you couldn't. You left, even as you remained. You abandoned the ritual because you mistook it for rejection. Her silence is ancient. It carries the memory of every time she was told to smile, to explain, to soothe, to soften. And now she is done softening for those who cannot stand heat. She is done explaining to those who do not listen. She is done shrinking into comfort for men who tremble in the presence of her full, silent self. You fear the quiet, but she lives in it. And if you cannot meet her there, you will never truly meet her at all. You think of her now not as she was, but as she became when she stopped bending. The shift in her eyes, the coolness in her voice, the regal stillness. You miss her, but it is not love. It is mourning the man you might have become had you stayed in the ritual long enough to be transformed. She is not gone. She is beyond the reach of men who flinch, beyond the touch of those who ask for softness before showing strength. She has no more patience for your learning curve. She does not offer you another chance. Her silence was the chance. And now, in the echo of what she didn't say, you are finally learning how loud the truth can be. The ritual of withholding was never about games. It was never about punishment. It was the last honest act she could offer before collapsing back into performance, before once again becoming the girl you wanted, agreeable, sweet, soft-spoken. But this time, she refused. She chose herself, and in choosing herself, she sacrificed the illusion, the comfort, the approval. She let the mask fall and watched you recoil, and still part of you aches, not for her, but for what you missed, for what you could have become. You look back and realize her silence was not emptiness. It was the voice you never learned to hear, the invitation you never accepted, the mirror you shattered with your panic. You told yourself she withdrew, but it was you who disappeared the moment she stopped feeding your reflection. You told yourself she played games, but it was you who couldn't endure unfiltered reality. You said she was too much, but what you meant was she didn't make me feel like enough. And now it is done. You wander through memories, seeking signs, replaying moments, but the ritual is closed. She has folded her silence back into herself. She has vanished into the feminine beyond. You will not find her in messages, in calls, in sudden epiphanies. She is no longer watching. The trial is complete. You were not meant to win her. You were meant to confront the fire she became when she stopped performing. And because you could not, you are left with only echoes. And that is your punishment. But it is also your awakening if you dare to let it burn. She waits beneath no moon now. The veil she once wore lies folded on an altar you never found. You reach for her through memory, but memory has no hands, only shadows, only rituals unfinished. The door you knocked on has vanished. The silence you feared is the only thing that answers. You never knew her name, only her reflection, and now you understand. When she said, "I'm fine," she meant this is your last chance to see through the fire, but you blinked, and she became myth.